Cyprian of Carthage, De Dominica, Oratione, episode 16. Declara scriptura divina, quae dicit, loque batur in corda suo, et labia eis movebantur, et vox eius non audiebatur, et exaudivit eam Deus. Item legimus in psalmis, dicite in cordibus vestris, in stratis vestris transpongimini. Cyprian continues discussing the prayer of Hannah from 1 Samuel chapter 1, Hannah being the mother of the prophet Samuel. The Holy Scripture, Scriptura Divina, declares, makes clear what she says, the things which she says, and the subject of dicit is Hannah, and dicit is third, singular, present, indicative, active. What follows then is a quotation from, once again, 1 Samuel 1, verse 13. Loque batur, she was speaking in her heart. Loque batur is the third singular imperfect, passive, from the deponent verb loquor. The form is passive, its third conjugation, deponent verb. The translation is active. So when parsing it or identifying it, one can identify it as passive or as deponent, but not as active, because that is an identification of the translation, not of the form. She was speaking in her heart, and her lips, labia eis, were being moved. Her lips were moving. Labia is neuter, plural, nominative, from the second declension noun labium, and eis is a feminine singular genitive referring to Hannah. Labia is the subject of movebantur, which is passive. The verb moveo in Latin is used somewhat differently than the English verb to move. The distinction is that in English the verb move is both transitive and intransitive. That means it both is used with an object and without an object. So we can say in English that I move, meaning I am moving myself, or we can say I move the book. The one is intransitive, the other is transitive. The Latin verb moveo has only a transitive meaning. It does not have an intransitive meaning. In other words, it means to cause motion in another object or person. Thus, if I want in Latin to use the verb movere to indicate that I myself go from one place to the next, and this verb is uncommon for that usage, but it's possible, I would say me moveo, I move myself, or I cause myself to move. This is not a very good Latin expression by my understanding, but it is grammatical. If we want to say that Caesar went from one place to the next, we can say Caesar se movet. Caesar moved, he moves himself. See how it is transitive, the verb moveo. This is why the verb movebantur needs to be passive. Her lips were being moved. We could say she moved her lips, but this is a more natural expression. And her voice, vox eius, was not being heard. This also is imperfect, like movebantur and loque batur. So her voice was not heard, and yet God heard her. Notice how exaudivit is a compound of the verb audio. So exaudio is a compound of audio, and thus they are roughly synonyms. Exaudio can often mean to overhear. So no one heard her voice, but God heard her. Or we can take the antecedent of eam as vox, that's certainly possible, rather than eis. We could say her voice was not heard, and yet God heard it, meaning her voice. Likewise, Cyprian continues, we read in the Psalms, speak in your hearts, dicite in cordibus vestris, dicite being a second plural imperative, on your beds in stratis vestris transpungimini, be pierced through, be searched, be tried. This is also a second plural imperative, but this one is passive, whereas dicite is active. Stratis is from the second declension noun stratum, which can mean a variety of things, including sheets or bedclothes, and the reference is to Psalm 4.